It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Welcome to Elmo's World Podcast. This is Elmo Ador Jr., your host, and I have my friend Cigu Alfie. He's from Malaysia. Cigu, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, Elmo Aldo Jr. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. My name is Cigu Alfie, and I'm from Malaysia. I've been teaching English language and history for the past 26 years, and currently I'm writing a book. And I happened to stumble upon Elmo's post, and we kind of got ourselves in conversations, and it was very interesting. And I'm very honored to be here today. Yes.
Awesome, yeah. And you told me you're writing a book, man, and you say that it covers and unites all of all forms of human knowledge, like philosophy, religion. Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, thank you. Currently, the book is underway. I've already given it a title. In fact, the title is "The Pathetic and the Divine." It's kind of a hello?
Yeah.
Still on?
Yeah, I am.
Yes. The book is called The Pathetic and the Divine. And the idea is pretty simple. It starts off from the view that in all of human history, in all of our understanding so far, human beings are basically pathetic creatures. Simply to say that we don't know that much, and we have a lot of information and science and indication leading us in the direction of, finding out the truth or the true reality about life and existence. But yet again, in spite of being so insignificant in terms of size and our physical appearance in relation to the planet, the stars, galaxies, and the whole universe, we are pretty insignificant. Mostly insignificant. But then again, I found out that the only rational and realistic way to traverse and journey in this life is to feel divine, to feel that you are related not just to your physical body, but to the whole universe in general. So that's the idea. That's why we are pathetic, and each of us are also divine. And in this book, I'm just trying to help process the idea and share the idea in the hope that perhaps it will be useful to all the readers in the future.
Well, let's talk about how you got into this idea of man being this pathetic creature with our limited knowledge, and how we try to understand the reality, right? So how did you come about this concept and soon developed it and actually decide to write a book about it?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Uh, it's kind of a very slow process. I started out being quite able in school, and I always passed my papers quite easily, quite effortlessly. But then again, I did not excel in any area of my involvement in any subjects, and I'm quite a jack of all trades. You know, the one that call it. I was able to do many things, but again, I was not an expert in any specific area. So I became a teacher, and I thought of myself, I thought of my life as just drifting through quite successfully without too much challenges. Of course, I made a lot of mistakes and bad choices, but somehow I made it through. I have a family now and have a career. But then again, it always dawned on me every night before I go to sleep and every morning when I wake up, the same questions keep coming to me. What's the meaning of life? Who am I? And who are these people? And why is it that we are alive and we are rewarded with such a wonderful, wonderful life, you know, physical experiences, emotional experiences, and also our imagination is almost limitless. We can be anywhere, anytime, you know, in the fabric of space and time. And it dawned on me that somehow I understand that existence is actually eternal, you know. I incorporated a lot of ideas from many areas of life. My family is not that religious, but I somehow self-taught myself a lot of things in religions because my family has been a Muslim since the beginning, and I learned to pray and read the Quran and the translations basically all on my own without any specific teachings. And then I realized that the source of information may not necessarily come from one place. Am I relating? Am I relating still to you?
Yeah. Keep talking, brother. You're speaking the truth.
Yes. The true source of information about the true reality in life may not necessarily come from one place. You know, being a believer all my life and perhaps indoctrinated and swayed and too deep-seated in many aspects of the fundamentals of being a believer, I realized that. I have also been very interested in being open-minded, opening myself to all possible areas of thinking of psychologies and all that. And I think I'm quite talented in the sense that I can imagine myself being someone else. I can imagine myself being an atheist. I can imagine myself being a Christian, being a Hindu. I can imagine myself being an agnostic and so on and so forth. And it's really wonderful. It's truly magical, actually. And I come to a point where I saw that information can come from my religious scholars in the mosques, you know, in the madrasas and all the sheikhs and all the books that I'm reading. And information can come from just listening to songs. Information can come from just watching people. Information can just come from, in fact, it can come from watching all the vile and terrible stuff that is happening. They're happening all over the world, every day, day in and day out. When I look at criminals, for example, when I look at prostitutes and drug dealers and swindlers and all that, those people who are, you know, convicted in a court and sent to prison and all that, I don't feel that kind of being repelled from them, or I don't feel the repugnance towards all those crimes and evil things and that people do. I kind of get into a mode of understanding. I found myself able to see the reasons and all the intricacies of the life experiences that has brought all these people to do all those wonderful things and all those terrible things. And finally, when I looked into science, there is science and there is also the new science. The new science in which, for example, quantum physics and quantum entanglement and superpositions and, hyperlocation and all that stuff. It's truly possible that one day science will be able to explain a lot of stuff, the physical and the non-physical, the seen and the invisible things. And I kind of see everything comes in place. All the pieces come into play. Everything is coherent. None of the things in this world is actually truly inexplicable or cannot be understood. And so it is. I found that the only useful way to traverse in life, to go on in life meaningfully and fully aware, is the realization that we are actually eternal beings. Each individual can only live meaningfully if they can perceive of themselves as universally important. That none of us is actually put here in this life for no reason or randomly or haphazardly. Nothing is arbitrary. Nothing is like a waste. Everything carries as deep a meaning as possible. And we can find it in the divine scriptures. We can find it in science. They all will come together. They all converge in a great coherence. And I think this is very, truly important, especially nowadays when human beings seems to have a lot of information already. And actually, when you put all in place, and look at all the landscape in one big picture, everything will make sense. And there is no reason for people to feel sad or, to withdraw from life. Everything should engage in life as spirited and inspired as always. It's always elevated emotion. Everyone deserves to experience elevated emotions, true happiness in their life, whatever they do and wherever they are. That's basically the idea.
Yeah, I completely agree, and you're right. The truth is out there, and it can come from anywhere else on this earth. And what you said about like every individual should believe or know that they are universally important is something really essential, and it's something that we cannot ignore. That's why we all of us in our human society believe in human rights and human dignity, and that every individual life matters. This is something that is actually sort of like an intuitionist like concept that it arrives at us at every moment, and it's simply self-evident, in fact, and especially in terms of like how we find beauty even in the darkest situations, and even in these horrible times, human hope, human love can still surpass and can be seen through all of this. And what you said about your book about the pathetic and the divine, can you elaborate more on what foundations you rely on this? Like, for example, what premises you establish before you can make your conclusions?
Precisely, yes, of course. Thank you for the question. The thing is, when you look into philosophy, when you look into the structure of logical reasoning and rationality, when you look into syllogism and the premises, and in fact consider all the fallacies that man can make, in philosophy, it does not offer an absolute and final answer to many things, to most things, in fact. And actually, it is the same with science. Science is one of the greatest gifts for mankind. That is completely undeniable. And it has its principles. And one of the most important aspect about science and the science method in scientific thinking is that everything should be measurable and testable, and we should be able to control some factors or variables in order to produce the hypothesized effects or cause and effects, or to be able to come up with some meaningful and senseful established understanding even though it is transitory, even though in science you can make 1,000 successful experiments, and just one experiment can make all your scientific notion fall into pieces. Just one experiment that might not agree with the parameters that has been established can put that notion in jeopardy, and that is the scientific spirit. It doesn't depend on established facts. It depends on the sustenance of established facts insofar as the present time has allowed, and the search is always on. Like, science is very curious, but it remains on physical evidence, and it remains on physical testability, experimentability. And science is not interested in things it cannot study. If there's simply no standardized notions of a material or quantity or physical representation of things, now science is not because it cannot answer it, but it's because it cannot test it. Because science cannot test something, science is not interested in trying to find answers to things which it can study. I think that's basically the idea. So philosophy and science, they provide you with means. They can point you in directions, but they don't give established facts. If you're a philosopher, you might be trained in asking relevant questions, poignant questions, important questions, in order for you to advance in your philosophical thoughts and hypotheses and all that, in theories and all that. And science, in terms of physical science, that is as far as it can bring you to lead you to physical notions. And also, ultimately, I think it is safe to say that science will give you a lot of extensive amounts of indications and signs about the true reality of the universe, of living, and of existence. But yes, and then there was this ancient notion that science and religion should go against each other. Well, I'm not an expert in all the scriptures, in all revelations and all the divine religion, but I have been a Muslim all my life, and I'm only qualified to view the situation from the amount of information that I understand. And I understand the Quran, and I have always trained myself to put them side by side and see. The thing is, the Quran is not a scientific textbook. It's not a history textbook. It's not a book on economics or politics. It's not. It's a divine revelation, and it's trying to cover all questions about all things. And the way to do that, because when you look at historical notions in the Quran, it doesn't trap itself into a quagmire. For example, when it talks about Moses and the Exodus, when it talks about the creations of the heavens and the earth and the first human beings, it doesn't give you specific dates. It doesn't give you, a kind of a measurement device, but it gives you the historical notion. That's what it provides. And of course, we can argue that, okay, some people might look at a few things in the Quran and then they say this conflicts, this is clashing with these other scientific notions and established facts. Well, of course we can do that. It's called exploration. But insofar as the research, my own research that I'm doing, I look at revelations, and the most interesting thing is when you look at the Quran, it is actually telling you about the other religions. As you know, the Quran began its revelation when Prophet Muhammad was 41 years old, and continued on for about 23 years. And there's a specific period where it started and where it ended, and this happened in the 7th century. Beginning from 571 AD to 617 or somewhere there. Yes, specific dates, 23 years of revelations, and it ended. And it puts the Quran at a very interesting about the timeline of the human history, where it's able to account for the fact and describe all the revelations that has come before it was revealed, before the Quran itself was revealed. And then also it established the fact that Prophet Muhammad was the last of the long line of prophets, and divine revelations ended when he ended his revelation, when he died and all that. And I sort of overlay that and compare that with all the history of mankind. And yeah, that's it. It's able to describe all the religions. When I look at all the other religions, I can see the fact that they all came from one same single source. And throughout time, this revelation had been improved upon. It has been added on, and it's part of a natural human trait to be able to, improve on some things. And sometimes the Quran claims that sometimes because of this enthusiasm, they can just create new things, create new stuff to make them align with their own thinking, and then they claim that this is God's revelation. The Quran, in specific places, in many areas in the Quran, it claims that a woe to those who concocted something, and then they claim this is from God. And this can be a religious debate, but I'm not interested in taking that approach and bring it to the world to discuss with all of my readers, who can come from all sorts of life, all races, all traditions, religions, other religions. So the approach that I take is that I bring this thought, and I bring everything. I bring the fine arts. I bring history, well-established histories and facts, and I bring science and technology, and I bring all the everyday things like that we can find even until today. And I try to share with my audience that everything is connected. Nothing is random. Nothing is haphazard. Everything is telling you one story, and ultimately that's where you discover that each and every one of us deserves to know that we are universally significant. I mean, I don't know Aldo Jr. I don't know you physically, right? But then again, when I think of you, I can only think of somebody who is universally significant. I have full, complete respect for this other person. It helps me when I walk around and I meet strangers. I sort of able to look at them and recognize them as holy, a person who is wholly, completely divine, even though they may appear pathetic and they might not understand so many other things. But the first impression is I approach the world with full respect, full admiration, and full compassion. And I think that's what the book is.
Well, all I can say
I'm
to
sorry
you,
for that.
is you're a freaking genius, man. And you just hearing you spout all that truth, and your understanding of what science is, what philosophy is, and what religion is able to tell us, and the fact that you say that you are able to accumulate all forms of knowledge, and I hope that you're able to give me a copy of your book someday if you finish it. But all I want to say is that meeting you here is really awesome, and I would love if you could also talk about what the topics or the specific points you will take or you present in your book. And I hope that you can also describe or elaborate what your defense is, or stuff like that supports it.
Yes. Well, maybe I should tell you the second part. I think the second or the third part of the book might have a lot of stuff that will be controversial. Yes, and one of the most interesting part in this book that I'm writing, that I'm excited about, is that it's going to reveal a lot of mistakes and errors. And especially if you think about it, it'll be useful if it is self-reflective. And because I'm not an expert in all the other religions, I might know the fundamentals and the essentials about the religion, but I'm not the experts in them. I only know some people. I know from my general reading and all that. But my focus will be on where Islam and the Muslims have blundered. They have made a lot of blunders and mistakes and errors. In fact, even in the most sophisticated areas of religious scholarship, even among the scholars, not to say that I don't pay them enough respect or sufficient recognition. No, but I'm just here to provide an additional revelation or some kind of an insightful and useful reflection. I would like to show that there are a lot of misunderstandings. For example, let's take Islam, right? Islam is the topic that my book is hinged upon. And in Islam, I think the Muslims world have only translated 50%, okay? Only half about the treasures and the wisdom in Islam. I mean to say that Islam is such a perfect religion. And the basic question is, why aren't the Muslims so perfect? Why haven't the Muslim world unite? Because they have this perfect revelation and this perfect book, a perfect tradition of the perfect prophet, that. Why aren't they giving evidence of governance and in building nations, in social practice, even in economics, a lot of stuff that people don't know about Islam. Yes, I agree that if you dwell deeper into Islam, then you get to know that, and there's almost not an area of life that it is not covered, either by the revelations in the Quran or by the conveyance of the tradition from the hadith sahih or authentic hadith or the livelihood of the Prophet and all that. But then again, even the Muslims are missing a lot of things. So that's one of the heavy burdens that I'm carrying in the book. And as you say, what be my difference? There is no difference actually, because the objective of the book is not to point to people's mistakes. Basically, for example, I don't try to criticize Christianity or Hinduism or the agnostics, atheism. I might even point out their strong points. I might even point out how useful and relevant they all are, because the final judgment is not in the hands of men. That's ultimately the established fact that I'm depending upon. The final judgment, because science doesn't give you, philosophy doesn't give you, the history comes to you with interpretation, and history is according to the writers of the history. We all know that. So beyond this subjectivity, the quagmire, and this the plethora of opinions and standpoints, the world is not that shattered actually. They all come together, and I don't prepare my defense because I'm not attacking anyone. I'm revealing how some things that are already there. Things are already there. People can easily relate to. They can understand. Passions, love, mercy, justice, equality, and fairness, and human rights, and so on and so forth. Even the rights of the flora and fauna, even the sustenance of the planet, all that. So that's the thing. It might not be so much about defense. It's more on leaving a book that's gonna, hopefully it'll be useful for the benefits of the generations to come. That's it.
I guess then you say that you present some criticisms, but not all, and you might actually bring their strong points, right? For example, in Islam. But in a way, I want to know what what new thing you're actually presenting. You're sort of presenting, I guess, a whole or a holistic view or a take on knowledge, especially religious ones. And what is your goal here? What is the vision that you're trying to present to the world?
Yes, I think you might be also talking about the solutions or the conclusions that people can benefit from the book towards the end. Am I right? What is offering in the end? Is right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, now, as I told you, the book is in process, and I've got all this thing laid out in front of me, and I have to admit that I'm still in the process of coming to terms with the conclusion of the book. The conclusion of the book is something that people need, but they can't seem to arrive at it. For example, what do we want? We want a world in peace and harmony. We want we want people to experience life. We want mutual respect. And that's what we are not getting. The people of the world are still viewing themselves as separate, as different, as me and you, one self and the other. And that's basically the reason. It doesn't matter how sweet you appear in front of people, but, as one expert told me, like if you go to an elementary school, school with young kids, they can tell you instantly which teachers and love them and which teachers actually don't like them. They can tell you almost immediately. All right? Because human beings were endowed with this special gift, especially children, and the more innocent, they have some kind of feelers or antennas that goes out to feel and touch the world in ways that we as grown-ups have forgotten to do. And they can sense love and compassion. They can sense your sympathy and your empathy and how much you feel together, your love and compassion. That's it. And they can sense we don't like them. Now, people in this world, they still don't like each other. They still cannot find it in their hearts to give full respect and recognitions towards the others, simply because I'm a Muslim and you're a Christian. Because I'm a nihilist and you are a perfectionist, and stuff like that. Ultimately, hopefully this book will allow people to go into that, hey, everyone is pathetic, yet everyone is divine. Give full respect, trust the world, trust the other people. And of course, when they commit crimes, as long as a working laws and regulations in the area, of course, you can go to the justice system and you can, sentence criminals to the crimes to the time that they need to serve and all the penalties, But then again, in reality, in your truest sense as a person and the person, you have full respect, okay? You have full respect. Meaning to say, when you look at other person, you're not looking just at the physical body or appearance, the face or the eyes or the language or the colors and the build and all that. It's one soul looking at another soul. And hopefully this book will become a guide that will allow a lot of people to start a romantic cult, for example, for lack of a better word, for the people of the world to start loving each other in ways that they never realized that they can. They are capable of doing that. And hopefully a lot of differences will be looked at as just differences. Meaning to say, if you want to debate on which religion is true, do it and bring it in a closed arena, only for those who are interested in debating and looking at the facts and comparing them, but not in the open. Meaning to say, for example, the Muslim world, let's take the Muslim world, for example, they will do the best kind of job as Muslim, as in proselytizing and spreading the word of Islam, if they can show to the world the true examples, if they can become exemplary. That's it. Perhaps one day people can just look at a Muslim and then they go say, wow, look at that, and that's a Muslim, and that's the coolest way to do it, and that's how you should live. And that will be the best preaching of the day. You know, it doesn't necessarily become, okay, let's look at facts and let's argue. No. So people will start to respect each other, and hopefully people will become enlightened, and this will have impact upon their daily lives. When they wake up every morning feeling they trust the world and that they have respect for themselves as well as others, and they can even trust the natural world, how things work, and they become less fearful of things that are unknown, and that's it. So realizing that they are pathetic, they are divine, I think that is the perfect solution that the world needs today.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. And now that you discussed sort of the divine part of us being humans, we have this universal importance. I guess then I want to ask if you believe in God as well, or what concept of God do you believe in? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the question. I think that's one of the eternal questions that people have been asking throughout centuries and millennia, in fact. And all right, I guess the first thing that I can reflect upon in this sense is that there is a verse in the Quran. I don't know if you know it, but most people who have studied a little bit, and look around for specific and relevant information in areas of research that they are looking at. If you look at Islam, if you ask the Muslims, for example, if you ask 10 Muslims, I think 9 of them will give you this answer. The definition of God in Islam, that is the pillar, that is the core and the essence, yes. And the funny thing is, most people don't realize that in Islam, the definition is in the negative, meaning to say, okay, now this relates to my own research, my own indulgence upon the question, right? When I told you that you can ask philosophy, but you won't get to the absolute answer. You can look at science, and science will give you the signs of the greatness of God, and this is from the Quran. The Quran says, look at the signs of the greatness of God. The Quran says, God says, if I may use the word Allah, in Islam, God is Allah. Allah is just a name. Allah says, don't ask of me of my essence, but look at the signs of my greatness. Now, this is the fundamental principle. Don't look for my essence. Don't try to get a grip on my essence of who or what I am, but just look at the signs of my greatness. Now, this is crucial because this has been the guideline for most Muslims. That's why when people say, "Where is your God?" they don't know what to say because, I haven't seen my God with my eyes. How do you expect to show you God with your eyes? Things like that, if you want to take it as in simple terms, but basically that's it. We cannot find the essence. We can only look at the signs of His greatness. That's one. But it goes along with the verse, the first verse in the Quran. Basically, namely, this is verse 112. It's quite popular. It's a very short chapter. It contains only 4 lines. And it's chapter 112, verse 1, verse 4. It's very simple, and it's very short. It says, Kul huwallahu ahad. Say, O Muhammad, this is in Revelation, say, O Muhammad, Allahu ahad, that God is just one. God is just one. And then it goes, verse 2, Allahu samad. Allah is the God on whom everything depends, on which nothing can exist without depending upon God. Now, this is crucial because you can take this in philosophy, you can take it in science, all right? For example, in science, as a Muslim, you believe that everything is created and Allah has erected the laws of nature. Everything is energy, and when the energy is focused, you get a concentration of energy, and then it creates, in the fabric of space and time, it creates matter. It creates mass. And mass can disappear if you go in the speed of light. E equals mc squared, so that. And then everything is entangled. Everything is entangled. So everything is what do you call that? Dependent upon the same thing. So verse 2 it says Allah Samad. Allah is the God on whom everything depends. And third verse, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. He has no son and he's not begotten. Meaning to say, because he's singular, he doesn't have a parent, he doesn't have a he doesn't have a wife or partner or helper, and no children and all that stuff. This is basically, it is in simple lines, verse number 3. It says, Qul huwallahu ahad. Say Allah is one, Allahu Samad. Allah is the God on whom everything depends. Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. He has no son and is not begotten. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And it says, there's nothing in this world, in everything that you know, that to him comparable. There is nothing whatsoever in this world, in this universe that you know of, that to God is comparable. And then wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And he is one. And the last line will go, and he's one. So this is a very cozy, very chapter, and basically you can bring it everywhere. You can bring it in philosophy, in psychology, in even the finest art. You want to test it in the literature and in the finest arts, you will come to the same result, that this chapter on which Muslims lay the foundation of a divine belief, and this is God. So so people can come to you with a lot of rubrics, or maybe library philosophies, in logic and rational reasoning. And as long as they are looking for the essence, as long as they argue to find out what is God, to be able to see it and measure it and test upon it, if we had been able to do that, God would have discovered the first day the world was discovered, and there would be no unfolding of human dramas, and throughout the millennia. And yes, that's it. So I believe in God, and this God, where is He? For example, of course, there are some lines of authentic hadiths, and also discussions by the scholars. And one of the hadiths says what? Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein, or the vein or the blood vein in your neck. So God is closer. And you don't have to shout. He is there before you even speak, and stuff like that. So is that relevant as an answer?
So, yeah. My question would be is, now that you have this belief in God, but ultimately, though, what do you think is the purpose of why we are here? Why there is suffering? Where there's this problem of evil? Why did He have to create some sort of will, or even this humans that interact with each other are able to love, hope, or even actually hate each other? What do you think is the purpose of this?
Well, that's a very wonderful question, Elmo. You are familiar with the many types of philosophies that we have?
Yeah. For
example,
I do.
Yeah. And there is one philosophy, the nihilism, or example by Friedrich Nietzsche. Some people say he's a nihilist. Friedrich Nietzsche says God is dead. Yes, we have killed God. Yes, you remember that?
Yeah, I think Nietzsche, though, is an existentialist in my opinion. But a lot of people do in the modern age do see him as a nihilist, but that's not how I see it.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. Very well. Thank you. And yes, he is the existential. It was made popular by Albert Camus, if I'm not mistaken. In one of his novels, he wrote the novel The Stranger, and as an existential, he killed a person, and yet in his philosophy, there was no need for him to act as if it is known, and he continued on with his life without feeling remorse or guilt, and it was never discovered. And if you kill a person and then you're not discovered, it then doesn't mean anything as an existential. you know. And yes, for Friedrich Nietzsche, I think he's more, well, in my perspective, he's often talked of as a nihilist. But the thing is, all the philosophies that we can think of, that we have learned, we have discovered, they are all relevant in order to achieve the big picture. It's my idea. You know, you have to consider, for example, like in spirituality, atheism is not useless. You know, it's only a matter of the unfolding of the events in the world that we find some people are atheists. Some people, they just lack the belief. As long as they are not convinced by the evidence, they cannot lie to themselves and bring themselves to believe that there is God if, with all their mental and emotional capacity, psychological capacity, they cannot arrive at the conclusion that God exists. Well, they are atheists, and you cannot kill them, or you cannot say that they will go straight to hell. You know, that's the difference in my view. That's why I'm writing this book, because I don't find any colleagues to discuss such matters. It's quite difficult. And so your question was, why are there so many things? All the things we want, all the things that we don't want. Why do evil exist? Why even Satan is let loose around the world? Well, let me tell you, everything is divine. Everything is divine. Everything is within God's power. You know, sometimes people say, how do you know you are powerful? You're able to hurt a person or kill a person, and yet you don't. And yet you don't. You know, in Islam, there's this thing they call 99 great names. Okay, 99 names of Allah. These are basically characteristics and traits, divine characteristics that are attributable to Allah alone, to be able to become omni, to acquire all those traits. 99 names. And one of the names is the most patient. The most patient. You know, if you think about it, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are committing blasphemy, you know, are saying bad things and wrong things and slander and lies. Yeah, in my perspective, lies about God, and yet God does not, you know, put them to death or strike them with lightning in the instant. And for example, you can take the Quran, you can burn the Quran, you can use the Quran to wipe your ass, for example, you know, just to show your repugnance and to show that you rebel. And that is not proof that God is not powerful enough to hurt you back, or, you know, to punish you because of that mistakes in the instance. No. But the most powerful God would let you. You know, the two most prominent names of Allah says Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman is Allah whose love is widespread, unconditional, and He can give His abundance and plentiful, you know, plenty of things to whomever He wants, whenever He wants, wherever He wants. That is Ar-Rahman. When we say Ar-Rahim, now that is all the gifts and success and happiness and pleasures and comfort that Allah has given to those whom He truly loves, because these people recognize Him and worship Him. So that's Rahim. But in terms of Rahman, He can give, you can become a criminal, a most successful drug dealers like Pablo Escobar, and you can still experience wealth and abundance and enjoyment. You can indulge in all your lust and desires and, you know, all the wildest thing you can think of, and then you die. Yes, it's possible. And so when you exist forever, if that's the understanding you can get from your religion and from all your science and philosophy, that you exist forever, there is no afterlife and there is justice. If Pablo Escobar, for example, he died without getting any what do you call that, reciprocity or punishment for all the crimes that he did, for all the lives that he took, and for all the oppressions and injustices that he instilled upon man, and yet he was not punished. And what does the Quran says? It says, and God will not be unjust to you, even in the amount of an atom, even in the amount of an atom. So I think you have to view the purpose of life, as the Quran says, is for God to test you. Now, it sounds casual, it sounds rather flippant and simplistic. A test, why should he test us? He's God. He's able to give everybody everything that they want. He can give pleasures. He can feed all the hungry mouth in the world throughout billions of years if he wants to. If he wants to. But is that how it's going to work? You have to go back to the drawing board. You have to go back to your philosophy. You have to go back to your logical and cause and effect. You can go forward or backward, in time. You can look all the variables, or you can look all the drama, all the possibilities, all the possibilities that you can think of, and you will come to the conclusion that the world needs to traverse this way. Evil needs to exist. People need to suffer. If you go to a simpler illustration example, what is eating? You eat, okay? People eat, but do you eat well? Do you enjoy it? What is the pleasure of eating? When the food tastes really nice, when you are really, really hungry, and the dish is served very well balanced, and all the ingredients are put just nicely in most perfect measurement, served this way, and then you eat. And the pleasure is, you cannot find this kind of pleasure. If you are deeply hungry, you will eat with deep pleasures. And for that pleasure, you need to be hungry. For you to taste the magical, the bewildering pleasure of drinking fresh water, you have to be truly, truly thirsty. So that's the thing. Some people call it duality. Some people call it, well, that's just your thinking. But no, you can check on your philosophy. You can check on your logic. All right. The world needs to traverse this way. And yeah, sometimes I think about it. Why does God create Satan when he knows that Satan is going to go against him? Well, he's God. What is not understood by God? Evil is his creation, suffering, pain is all his creations. So for the world to unfold, this world, this universe is the statement, the divine statement of God. So when he expressed this statement of his divine power and mastery over things, he has the full authority to say how it will unfold. And because of that, some people say, why do good people suffer a lot of injustices? And it's the same way, why do but at the same token, suffering is for everyone. Everyone can find difficulties and problems. In fact, you cannot run away from problems. If you have everything in this world, everything that you want, there will always be one more thing that you want. It will never be enough. So I think that's why we need to open ourselves to these kinds of thinking, to this kind of, putting everything together and let you see that finally you get to say that, when I cry, before I cry, Allah cries. Before I feel hungry, Allah is the creator of that hunger, and Allah knows what is hungry. He is the originator of the suffering of hunger, and he is hungry first before you are hungry. So the line is always there. You are never separated. No one is ever separated from God or from each other. So I hope that is relevant, Elmo.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And to ask you one last question, Cigu, because I think we're almost an hour now, and I want to ask you this question. And my question is, um,
Yes.
uh, uh, to what vision do you have for this world? You know, it might seem messed up right now, and it probably take like 10 more centuries before we reach some sort of utopia. But in a way, what kind of world can we, or what kind of actions can we take to make this world a better way in our own personal steps?
Thank you, Almo. I think if people spend more time, looking at these things the way that perhaps I have suggested, and I'm not the only one doing this, and I think this is a culture and in a genre that people are now looking at, and I hope it's relevant. And I think once you realize that you are pathetic and you are divine, right? Now people need to know this. Once you realize, then you understand the true value of the moments that you go through, of the things that you do. Not the big thing. Like, I'm a teacher, I'm trying to educate young generation. Oh, that's such a big thing. I cannot even measure that, right? Yeah, it's the thing. For example, like me, I'm a teacher. When I start walking into my classroom, right? When I start to walk into my classroom, every step of the way is divine. Every step of the way is not random, is not meaningless. It's full of sense, it's full of meaning, it's full of life, and it's full of, and the eternity is there. Eternity is there. If you are a cleaner for a building or place, if your job is just to sweep the floor clean, right? When you sweep the floor clean, and then you understand that every swerve that you take with the broom and every dust and particles that you lifted off the floor is meaningful, it's not something insignificant. It's the unfolding of the universe, that God is with you, and you don't have to brag about it. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure that fulfills itself. When people start to do this, if you're running a big company, if you're the president of a country, if you are a blogger who's producing a short program like what we're doing now, every moment that goes along, every second that ticks and talks in the fabric of space and time, everything is meaningful. Everything is bringing you closer to the ultimate truth, to the realization and the completion of your story. And when more and more people start to do this, hopefully people will forget to hate. People will forget to be suspicious. I'm not talking about being, carelessly suspicious. And, when people come to you with a knife or a pointed gun, you don't go and hug them, of course not. But I'm talking about the general day-to-day living that everyone goes through. When you look at your mother, when you look at your brother, it's like looking at them for the first time. When you are about to leave your house, when you pack up your bag, if you start to go to work or to your college for lectures, and then when you say bye-bye to your mom, it's like saying goodbye for the last and final time. It's like you are not coming back to see your mother. Can you imagine that feeling, that elevated emotion, the emotion that's so strong and so, yes. And when you come back to your house, as you start walking to your house, the house might be there, the house might not be there. You don't have any control over things. And when you arrive at the house and the house is there, and then you meet your father or meet your little brother, it's like you're meeting them for the first time. Can you imagine the joy and the elevated emotion that you can have at that time? So when people start to reach at this level, life will be like in heaven. Life will be like in heaven. When you're standing on the ground, and then you feel your feet touching the ground, and then you say that you stand in awe, amazing awe and bewilderment and amazement and gratefulness, and just listen to the experts. This is what they want you to experience, and with this kind of understanding, you don't go live. You don't go through life the same way that you have before. Tonight, for example, I'm on my way home. I'll be reaching my house. It's not the first time. Maybe it's the 1,000 or the 2,000 times. But as I reach my home and feel like I've reached there for the first time, can you imagine the joy and elations that I'm experiencing there? I want people to share this. That's it.
Awesome. And that's a great answer, my friend. And thank you so much for being on my podcast. And I really enjoyed this conversation, Cigu. And
wow, Emil, yes, I'm the one who's honored. Yes, thank you very much.
yeah,
Yes.
I pretty much just ask you questions, but to me, like I love listening to my guests who are very very interesting. From all around the world, and you surprised me, man. Like, I didn't expect this wisdom to come from you. It's really amazing. It's a awesome phenomenon where like yeah, such even an individual who like for me, for instance, I'm just young. I don't know much about the world, but for me to be able to connect with someone who's deep into this philosophical knowledge, and it's just something that I never expected in my life. But yeah, so thank you so much, and
Yes.
goodbye, man.
Yes, and I envy you. I envy you because you are given such a magical opportunity to be able to interact with people, and I'm just one people, and I'm grateful for this night, and I think this has been such a wonderful and divine appointment, that one of the appointments that I have, and you are divine, my friend. You are divine.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye, man.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you. Take care. And all the best. I'll be enjoying your show from now on.
Yeah, okay. Bye, dude.
All right.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
It used to be hard to find the exact auto parts you needed, and that meant spending a lot of time at swap meets. It's a different game now when you can order exactly what you need from eBay Motors. They have 122 million parts, so you can always find the right fitment. Spend less time searching and more time building with the eBay Motors app, or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.